This morning, we're also learning more about the arrest of that FBI informant tied to the Hunter Biden case. Prosecutors now revealing that informant was in contact with Russian intelligence officials.
In case you hadn't heard, James Comer and Jim Jordan's year-long evidence-free investigation into the Bidens has predictably gotten worse for them.
Alexander Smirnoff appeared yesterday in a Las Vegas federal court to face charges over allegedly lying to the FBI, particularly about claiming that Joe Biden accepted bribes to benefit Hunter's businesses. Now, it's a claim that's central to the impeachment probe and one often repeated by Republicans. But the bombshell came when David Weiss, that same special counsel who has charged Hunter Biden, alleged that Smirnoff lied and that he admitted to working with Russian intelligence officials involved in passing on a story about Hunter Biden. Now, prosecutors allege the contacts were, quote, extensive and extremely recent, and that he's, quote, actively peddling new lies that could impact the U.S. elections.
Comer responded to this latest L by telling Spectrum News that his amateur and politically driven impeachment attempt is over, especially since the math is getting worse for House Republicans who just lost the special election to replace their con man George Santos. The accountability, I hope, will come this year, but it may come next year with a new president, a new attorney general, is what Comer said. At the end of the day, my goal is to get the truth out there and hold people accountable for wrongdoing. That may encompass impeachment. If it doesn't, that's fine with me. I think that Congress will get to see what happens with this Mayorkas impeachment in the Senate and how serious the Senate treats that as to whether or not we impeach Joe Biden over here or we just focus on holding him accountable. It's telling that his hopes for some kind of accountability for wrongdoing that he hasn't been able to produce any evidence of hinges on Trump getting back into the White House. It makes sense, though, considering this entire process has depended on Comer doing media tours, while allies in conservative media took the story and ran with conclusive declarations built off of information from a guy affiliated with Russian intelligence.
FBI had an unclassified record that details an extortion and bribery scheme involving then Vice President Biden. We haven't gotten anything from the FBI and DOJ.
I guess.
Now remember, this 1023 that was released by Grassley last week, now we know about this Form 1023 that alleges bribery.
You have the actual crimes the Bidens have committed, which range from money laundering to bribery.
Documented allegations of bribery from a trusted FBI confidential human source has now finally been released. Now, its contents are devastating.
Fox host Sean Hannity alone promoted the claim of this single FBI informant no less than 85 times last year. 28 of those segments were monologues, very long monologues, in addition to all the breathless so-called reporting. And this is across the right-wing media.
James Comer's co-pilot in this embarrassing year of Republican investigations that mostly produced naked pictures of Hunter Biden was a little more defiant when reporters asked him to explain.
He said that this informant now charged with some of the most corroborating evidence. He said that in an interview last month.
It did corroborate what I just said there, but it doesn't change the facts.
But those allegations from the FD 1023 are now found to all be lies. So how does that impact the investigation?
I think you should ask the FBI why they were so reluctant. They told us if we don't, when we wanted to see the 1023, said this could jeopardize national security, the safety of this confidential human source. You can't know his name. They didn't want to show it to us. Then they finally did. I mean, this is a guy they paid, I think, since 2010. So 14 years they've been paying this guy. And he's a trusted source, and now we find out. Plus, I think there's sort of the, when Christopher Steele lied to the FBI about President Trump, he gets paid more. When Smirnoff lies to the FBI about President Biden, he gets indicted. I mean, go figure. So it doesn't change the fundamental facts.
It doesn't change the facts. It does change the facts. Those are no longer facts. Those are not true.
The four things I just said, they're absolutely true.
But
did Hunter Biden get put on the board of Burisma? Yes. Was he paid $1 million a year? Yes. Did Joe Biden condition the release of tax money for the firing of the prosecutor who was applying the pressure? Yes. All four of those things are facts, absolutely, regardless of what the confidential human source may or may not have said.
There's no contrition or any responsibility being taken for the amount of time and money that they've wasted on this investigation solely meant to support their party's presumed candidate. But in what might be the most telling and dangerous aspect of House Republicans' tunnel vision for MAGA revenge is that it made them refuse to vet their sources, leading to them simply being used as pawns by foreign intel officials.
but it shows that overall he lied about a series of meetings in 2015 and 2016, phone calls in 2016 and 2017, and he didn't pay attention to what he already told the FBI. And so there's information that they write up in a report of it's called the 1023 report, and that's just a summary of the conversation that they had with the guy. There's nothing in there that says whether or not they determined what he said was true or it made sense. But the 1023 is an interesting part of this because it speaks to the congressional component. If you remember, there was a big fight in Congress about whether or not a 1023 from a confidential human source about the Bidens should be released from the FBI. That happens in the spring of last year. This is ongoing, and then at some point, it's released. Then he speaks with the FBI again on multiple occasions. And as you said, there's further discussions about, well, this is what the Bidens were up to. There was even information about what Hunter Biden was up to at a hotel in Ukraine. Problem with that, prosecutors say Hunter Biden's never been there. So it raises questions as to whether or not the Russians took a look at the fact that information they're feeding this guy can go direct to Congress. And they're smart enough to realize, hey, you know what? We don't even need to try to push this through the FBI. We could just tell this guy whatever. Information's going to go in a report, and then it might just find its way to Congress. And there's no legal vetting here. There's nothing here that says whether or not what this guy said was true or not.